Bill, can you talk about what Shack Error Notify does?
Occasionally, problems come up, right? And a
More than
user will,
occasionally, most of the time.
well, uh, and a user will report that they got one of those dreaded, just white screen of death in Joomla, where an error was thrown, and all they got was, fatal error. Your site's broken. So what we actually based this. Steve was talking about something they have at WordPress that will catch those kinds of errors and send an email. And I thought we should have that. So Shack Error Notify will do what it can to catch those fatal errors that completely shut your site down. Site will still, show the same error, but at least we'll get an email saying, "Hey, something went really wrong." And there's a number of things you can send in that email, and you can decide what to actually catch in terms of errors. There you
So,
go.
so the backstory to this is, yeah, we have a WordPress plugin business as well. And one Friday night, our checkout was going smoothly, and one or two of the plugins on the WordPress site have a auto update feature, and some developer who is braver than us released a update to their plugin late on Friday night, and it was completely unrelated to the checkout process. And Friday night, it completely broke our checkout process. And Saturday, Sunday, no sales on Monday. We got to Monday afternoon wondering what on earth was happening. And we started to dig back in the error logs and finally found that this extension, and I think it was like a latest news widget maybe for WordPress, had for some reason completely broken our checkout process. And so we went hunting for a way to automatically get notified every time something really serious like that goes wrong on our site. And we found a plugin that did it on WordPress. And it's actually saved us in very similar situations a couple of times now. And so every time there's a fatal error on our WordPress site, we get an email, and we realized that it would be a useful thing to do on the Joomla side as well, because we've had checkup problems with our Joomla site too sometimes. These things happen. And so Bill built Shack Error Notify, which will send us an email every time Joomla produces a fatal error. And you can turn the setting up a little higher, right, Bill, to show more errors if you're feeling brave.
Right. There's they have to be fatal because on some level it's more complicated in Joomla than it was in WordPress. But the basic idea is instead of just getting one of those fatal errors where you get that screen that says 404 or 403 or bad syntax or something, whatever can bring your site down. Chances are you can get an email for it. And I had to add a bunch of configuration options because it turns out there's a number of little hidden errors that show up. And I tweaked it a bit for Joomla Shack. And some of the settings are based on what we had to figure out, to get Joomla Shack to not constantly be sending us errors. I think at one point, Steve, we were getting 50 emails an hour or something at one point.
Yeah, it did take some testing to figure out the right level of error reporting to do, so you would only get notified of the really critical errors.
Right. It can catch more than you care to know about.
But touch wood, it's really done a pretty good job of saving us in quite a few situations. I think most recently we had a problem with our support ticket system. We use Help Scout, and we have a connector that talks to Help Scout from the Joomla Shack site. And it it was broken and people were having problems logging into it. And it's the kind of thing that we just wouldn't have caught normally because we're not checking our error logs. But Shack Error Notify almost immediately reported the problem to us. And as you can tell from the email records, it told us exactly where the problem was. Here's the line number. Here's the file. Here's what's happening. It told us the user that was happening for, so we contacted the user and talked to them. Really, one of those things that we had been using internally. I'd asked Bill to build it quite some time ago just to make sure that Joomla Shack was running smoothly. But when the pandemic came, our thought was, okay, this would be a really useful tool we could distribute to Joomla Shack customers.
There have been a number of times where the this extension saved my butt when either there was a coding error or some kind of a problem that showed up, and I got an email message right away, and I could immediately zero in on where the problem was and fix it within minutes, as opposed to, oh, was there a problem?
So it's related to Shack user switching, I think, in that it fills a similar kind of hole. It fixes a similar kind of problem. That with Shack user switching, it works behind the scenes to help you run a site on a day-to-day basis. And the same is true with Shack Error Notify. Both of those are useful site maintenance plugins, basically.